start, I mean, you've been in these familiar situations before with brand new teams, brand new rosters. What's kind of stood out about this off season for you and about the team you've built so far?
Well, I think that that's a great question, and I really want to give credit to our staff. Of course, we had a staff turnover, and I really think that they've done an incredible job of putting a roster together. I think they addressed what eventually became some of our shortcomings last year: lack of size and physicality, lack of depth. And when we took some injuries, it was very difficult. We had a pretty significant drop off from our frontline group, and so I think they've done a great job putting there. I do think that we have a lot of quality players. I think we have a lot of we're bigger and stronger than we were last year, a little more athletic, and scored a little bit better across the board. But we're also on the other side. We're still searching for ourselves. It's going to be a little bit in this non-conference. Well, thank goodness for non-conference play. With so many new faces, it's going to take a little time. I feel like, especially after our scrimmage the other night, that that's a good baseline, and we have a long way to go. But one of the good things about playing an inter-squad scrimmage, playing with officials, it allows you to really narrow your focus and about what needs to be worked on if you look at it critically, like we do, and constructively critical, but you go back and evaluate. So a lot of things to work on, but love working with the players that we have. We've got a great teachable, coachable attitude every day, and it's been a lot of fun.
Jay, to the scrimmage, can you kind of speak to what stood out to you?
I think that we offensively, we showed that we have a lot of guys that can score it. And again, one of our emphasis in terms of putting this roster together was getting guys that can score. We have a lot of guys that can score. Our chemistry is not quite there. Our offensive execution, of course, is not there yet. But we did have some guys that could go make plays, and I was glad to see that. I would much rather have that problem. It's not a problem, but I'd rather have that situation than guys that weren't capable of going making plays when things get broken down. When you have the shot clock, like we have in college, you have to have some guys that you don't have a lot of time to get out and run great offense. So of course, conceptually, we teach a lot of concepts and how to just play basketball, but when we run set plays and set patterns, we have to be one of the things we need to improve on, of course, is our discipline, our execution, just the preciseness of those things. But you still have to have some guys at the end of the shot clock could go make some plays, get by people, create some advantage, and I think we showed that we could do that the other night. 83-81, great inter-squad scrimmage. On the other side, what we need to work on, I didn't think I thought we were lacked discipline at times on the defensive side as well. We weren't where we were supposed to be. We were out of stances. We were, and this is not all the time. I'm telling you what the coaches saw, of course, in film review, allowing guys to flash to the basketball, not denying the flash, sprinting to the ball to get in proper help position, trapping when the ball was in our trap zones. We needed to trap the ball. I mean, I could literally, Glenn, go on for a long, long time. But my point is there were some really good things, but there, of course, naturally, being 3 weeks away from our opener, there's a lot of things we still need to work on. I think today's practice was our 16th practice, so we're still fairly young into this thing. But that was a big part. The scrimmage itself was a big part of our preparation for the season. So I was really good to get in there and have them play with officials. I was pleased with our crowd. It was encouraging to see the people that came out for that. So anyway, I think we're on track, but a long way to go.
Jay, I know I've asked this before, but do you think it's good that almost every single season you have to flip the roster so much?
Well, do I think it's good? No, I don't think it's good. It's but that's my opinion, And of course, it's a lot of opinion, but it works both ways, Dean. I'll say this: it does work both ways. And but yeah, I don't think as far a basketball team relies so much on chemistry, and I mean, even look at the great professional franchises. I mean, the Celtics from the yesteryear, of course, back in the 80s, your Lakers, they had the same,
Right.
pretty much the Spurs more recently. They had the same team over and over. And where we are, and of course we can't control it, but we have to embrace it. You know, with basically we're in free agency with the NCAA, right? When a player can transfer every year, it makes it very difficult. But it doesn't just happen at Southern Miss and our level. It's happening in the high major level. You know, I'm great friends with Chris Beard at Ole Miss. They have a new roster. You know, and next year they'll have a new roster. It's happening at whatever at level, but until there's some guidelines, you know, that make kind of rein this thing back in a little bit, where some players that somewhat limits transfer. And I'm not educated enough to know if that's ever going to happen or not. You know, I wish it would have happened before it started. I wish there would have been some rules and parameters before it started happening, if that makes sense. But it makes it very difficult. But I will tell you this. My time in junior college, little did I know it at the time, but my time in junior college was well spent, because it's much more similar to my time in junior college than it was to my high school career, or of course at my Division I career. Very similar, because you flip that roster pretty much every year as well.
Yes.
We talked about this just a little bit before, but maybe not as much. Over the off season, you had to do a lot of this by yourself, because you know, a lot of assistants depart. What did that and this off season teach you about a coach? You know, and how do you think it kind of made you stronger for this year?
Well, I'll tell you this. It was we went through a period of time. There was a process to that, and of course we had some staff turnover, and it forced it, but it ended up being a good thing. And the reason I say it, first of all, it got me back to something that actually I enjoy. And instead of recruiting being, and of course we still need those coaches, as I mentioned earlier. I gave them a lot of credit because they brought a lot of our players, but a lot of those players I recruited personally as well. And it took me back to rolling my sleeves up and saying, hey, I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for where we are. I'm responsible for where we're going to head, and having my hand directly on it. And but there's some great value I found, and reminded myself of, about the head coach personally recruiting a player. And whereas comparing to most of the time it's assistant coaches from other programs, and I could use that as that, hey, is their head coach recruiting you? Of course, especially when it would get narrowed down to what school, and of course it was almost always the assistant coach being the primary recruiter, where it was me. And so there was some value there, and that's, of course I will remind them that I'm the one that makes a decision on who plays and not plays. So if I'm recruiting you, that I'll show you how important you are to us. So in a simple way, it kind of got back to me doing something as part of our program that I really enjoy, and I enjoy people, I enjoy relationships, and I think it was valuable to us. It went back. We didn't have a large staff when I was at Southeastern Louisiana. We didn't have a large staff. Of course, basically I was by myself at Jones Junior College, and I had to do those things. So I really enjoyed it. It was a labor of love, but I think it was also beneficial at the end of the day in terms of some of the guys we were able to recruit, because I was recruiting them personally. Just not that it's me, but the head coach, there was some value to that.
Can you talk about your backcourt just a little bit, just kind of what you're expecting to see from them this season?
We've got a very talented group of players. I still waiting, and as we go, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this. A lot of it may end up being deemed by committee, and what I mean is I don't think we have a lot of separation between who our best players are in the backcourt and who may not be. But I think some guys that have had a really good fall. I'll start with a local kid, and again, I'm not saying this because there's going to be a number of them that we won't have time to really talk about our entire roster, right? But Dylan Brumfield is a local player. His dad's, of course, a great friend of ours, and Coach Brumfield, Coach LeBron Brumfield at Oak Grove High School. When Dylan came out of high school, didn't think he was quite ready. Of course, he goes and plays for Chris Oney at Pearl River. has 2 really good years down there. When he's coming out of junior college, we think he's closer to being ready, but not just a no-brainer. And of course at that time we had Alvarez and Cabello, and we had a very seasoned group of guards coming in, and so it just wasn't our need. He goes to Cary. In the last 2 years, he has 23 and 27 on us, And I remember during the game last year, we literally could not. I mean, and he was doing it against our frontline guys, and we just couldn't stop him. And but he's a big, strong guard. He's very seasoned. Of course, he's played for Steve Knight at William Carey, so he's been well coached. Chris Oney at Pearl River, of course. And I love what I've seen from him. He had 8 assists the other night, 1 turnover. Scores it real well, and he's a matchup problem, but he's a typical coach's son. He's got a really high basketball IQ. So, if we had to start today, it would be very difficult for him not to be in that starting lineup. But I think what you're going to end up seeing is when I say by committee, I think you're going to end up seeing, at least in the early part of the non-conference, us playing a lot of guys out there and looking for some separation. Some other guys, of course, I think Izzy Hart he's an NAIA transfer. You start if you would have mentioned these type guys to Coach Turk or James Green or Coach Tyndall or Doc, and you're saying, oh, wait a minute, they're taking NAIA guys, they're taking Division II guys, they're taking that. You probably wouldn't have believed that, but that's now the way of the world. The way of the world is not guys that are coming in straight out of high school anymore. It's in fact if my son was coming out of high school, I would recommend him go Division II, Division III if he couldn't go directly to Division I. And the only high school guys that are really going directly to Division I are the really, really high level guys. Just absolute no-brainers. The Cooper Flags that are going to go straight in and be in the NBA within a year or two. And so the route into Division I, junior college, of course, route into Division I is much different than it used to be. So anyway, Izzy Hart's had a great fall. Kurt Lewis has been really good. I can go on and on. We've got a group of guys. Isaac Tavares is very talented. He had the most, scored the most, of course, the other night. And so the backcourt, I think, we've got good depth there, just really waiting for someone to kind of separate themselves.
So you alluded to it earlier. It looks like the biggest difference just early on will be your collection of bigs as opposed to what you had last year.
Yes.
Kind of speak to those guys, or is it a group of that can do different things, back to the basket, rim defenders, or guys who can actually bang and step out?
I think we've got I think we have a group that are very versatile. I really do. I think each one of them has a different strength, and I'm not saying these names in any particular order, so I don't want that to be misconstrued, because all of them have had good days. All of them have had days they could do a little bit better, and there's just not a lot of separation between those groups. And a name, I kind of want to back up a name. I tell you who's had as good an offseason for us as anybody and is going to play a lot would be Brewer Caruth. Of course, coming back from last year, he and Jet Montgomery have had him work incredibly hard. Brewer made over 17,000 threes this summer. We track all that, and his effort is really good. He played really well the other night in our scrimmage. So I want to make sure I point out he and Jed as far as guys. But now into the front court, and to list the guys that play in that position, I think Flu Diagne, and of course Jahi Benet. I'm trying to speak. I'm not good at. I can't hardly speak English sometimes, but much less French. But those guys, they're Division I transfers. I was telling, of course, my boss Sean Johns walking up here. We were talking about our roster a little bit, and just the guys that have played. They've got that Division I experience, and it's so hard to put a value on that, but it's really valuable. But with Flu coming from Western Kentucky, Flu signed at Western Kentucky for Coach Rick Stansberry. Rick, of course, everybody knows Coach Stansberry, high-level recruiter, and came out of NBA Africa, the academy over there, and probably wouldn't be here had he not had a pretty severe knee injury. Of course, he's still recovering from that. but really a high-level IQ player, understands how to play. I love him. Great young man. Really shoot it at 6'10", you know. Reminds you a lot of Felipe Haas. Of course, the injuries limiting his mobility somewhat, but he's getting better and better, getting in better condition. Hasn't played in 2 years because of an injury. As I mentioned, Jahi, who may be one of our, I don't want to say surprises, but someone that has really exceeded expectations. One of the things when I was recruiting him, he played at Alcorn State, and he's from Paris, France. Now, y'all think of those of us from Mississippi. I mean, I would have loved to seen the time when he arrived in Lorman, you know, and what he thought. And this is no affront to, of course, I've got tons of friends from Lorman and the Vicksburg area over there, but that's a pretty big difference, a change of scenery from Paris. I'm certain I've never been to Paris, but to Lorman. But anyway, but the thing that really would strike you is how hard he plays, and I mean he is relentless. Every day I tell him, say, you know, Jahi, if you will continue this and really set a goal, I want you to lead Division I in offensive rebounding. I mean, he is relentless with effort. He's strong, physical, athletic. Really gets us that offensive glass. And we've got some other guys that I've been very pleased with. Some of them started slow and beginning to kind of find themselves a little bit. Bully Weeks from Southwest Community College had a great offensive game the other night. He's you know, a lot of our junior college guys, they get here and they're just figuring out, oh man, we have to play defense. You know, you got to execute things offensively. You can't just run around. But he's embraced coaching and again, I think showed why he was one of the top, you know, players in our Mississippi Junior College League. IJ Azuma, big, strong, physical player. He had a hip surgery over the summer. He's just getting back out there. He was limited with minutes by our training staff the other night, but he's showing every day, and he gives us that physicality that we just haven't had the last couple of years. Got a good mean streak in him as far as a player. You know, I don't mean off the floor he's a gentle giant, but I mean on the floor he plays with that warrior mentality you're supposed to. I think our true freshman, our redshirt freshman, E.J. Payman from Mississippi, that transferred from Mississippi State, that played at Raymond High School. You know, he's playing. I was talking to his mom after our scrimmage, and you know, she was, Coach, you think he's going to be okay? I said, yes, ma'am. Just keep this thing in perspective. He played his first basketball game with officials in over a year and a half the other night. And so, like I said, I really like our group there. I like our depth. I like their skill set. And I think if you ask me, Coach, or the bigs ahead of your perimeters, our big people ahead of perimeter, I would say at this point they probably are. And that's been a somewhat, you know, we haven't had a great inside presence. Not that our guys last year weren't talented and didn't do a great job, but when you know, all three of those guys were light in the tail, you know, and DeAnthony and of course Christian Watson and Najee, all of them had really good years for us, but you know, they were 6'6", you know, guys that weren't real put together. So that was a great emphasis in terms of our recruiting in the off season, and I'm pleased where they are right now. I feel good about that position group.
With the schedule you guys have this year, I mean, obviously a lot of power teams on there, a lot of interesting non-conference opponents. What do you want the schedule to get out of your players, you know, and for this program? So it's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah. First of all, I'm a Southern Miss guy. I mean, and what I mean by that, I mean, I grew up in Hattiesburg. I grew up at just an incredible time, and we have one thing that I found this when I, of course, went to southeastern Louisiana, when I went outside of our area, to find the incredible respect that people have for Southern Miss and the Southern Miss brand. And we've got such a heritage and tradition to be proud of, and I'm incredibly proud of it, you know. And I mean, I look at it as one of the great blessings that God gave me, was to be able to go to school here during the time that I went to school here, and to be able to, I wasn't a very good player here, but I tell people all the time, I played on some really good teams. You know, I got to watch some good players and good teams play, and of course, I'm so proud of our tradition here, and it means something. It's amazing. I mean, we can, in our new assistants, even we were talking about this the other day, how you can get into in areas in other parts of the country that when you say Southern Miss, how that gets you into, you can get into people's living rooms. And so I want to say that, and with that being said, our tradition is so good. Our people expect us to play a big time schedule, right? And I mean, Ole Miss, LSU, South Carolina. Not only do our people expect us to play, and they expect us to certainly be competitive and win a game or one of those two. And I love that. And so it's going to help us in the non-conference. It's going to we need a tough non-conference schedule this year to help grow our team for league play, and it's tough. I don't know how that's gonna grade out when strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff comes out, but it's going to be way up there, I think, with the schools at our level. And but I think that's good, but it's also balanced out too, and I think that we have a chance to be successful in the non-conference. But I relish playing those teams. We've done it we do it in every sport. Our football team made its name, beating SEC teams and higher level to Big 12 teams and Big 10 teams. I mean, and if you're a Southern Miss person, you really love that, and I love it. It's not the best sometimes for your career and win-loss record and so forth, but it's what we need to be doing, and I embrace it, and I think our players like it. I know they do, and that's all they talk about. Man, we get to play this team and this team. I know in recruiting, we turn around and use it. It's going to be tough, and our win-loss record may not be the sexiest because of the schedule we play, but it's going to help us if we'll just keep it in perspective.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank y'all. It's good to see
Thanks,
y'all
Jay.
again.